Matthew Rowe had never been the type to slow down. At 33, he was already the youngest regional logistics director for a major distribution company in the Pacific Northwest. Every day, he coordinated fleets of trucks, managed dozens of warehouse staff, and solved a dozen problems before most people finished breakfast. His phone buzzed constantly. His calendar was color-coded chaos. And for Matthew, that was exactly how he liked it. Fast, demanding, and just a little bit out of control. But about 3 months ago, something small started tugging at his attention. A tiny red patch had appeared on the inside of his left forearm. At first, he dismissed it as nothing. A little irritation from a new soap maybe, or a scratch from moving boxes during a surprise warehouse inspection. It itched, sure, but Matthew barely noticed. He was too busy to notice. His wife, Sarah, did notice. She was a third-grade teacher, calm where he was restless, kind where he was focused. That night, as they curled up on the couch with bowls of popcorn and reruns of a cooking show, she gently traced her fingers over the rash on his arm. "You've been scratching this all night," she said, concern in her voice. "It's nothing," Matthew replied, brushing it off, literally and figuratively. "Just dry skin." She didn't push, but he caught the look in her eyes. She always knew when something wasn't right, even if he didn't. That was one of the things he loved about her. Days passed, then weeks. The patch grew slowly, expanding like a spill beneath the surface. It was still only on his arm, but the itching intensified. Sometimes it was a dull irritation. Other times it was maddening, like ants crawling under his skin. But work was relentless. There was a new regional expansion underway, and Matthew had meetings back to back. He kept telling himself he'd get it checked next week. Next week became next month. And by then the patch had spread from his forearm to his upper arm, then to his chest. Sarah tried again. "Please, Matthew, just go see someone. It might be an allergy, or something else." But Matthew was a man who thrived on solving external problems, not internal ones. "I don't have time to sit in a waiting room for hours just for them to tell me it's eczema or something silly." That night, he scratched so much in his sleep that he woke to tiny drops of blood on his pillowcase. Still, he went to work. It was a Tuesday morning when something finally shifted. He had just stepped out of his truck and was adjusting his jacket when a new warehouse trainee stopped him. "Sir, are you okay?" Matthew raised an eyebrow. "Yeah, why?" The trainee pointed. "Your neck, it's, really red. And moving?" Matthew froze. He ran to the side mirror of his truck, pulling his collar down. The rash was no longer just red. It was raised, inflamed, and had a faint, shimmering movement beneath the skin. It wasn't just a patch anymore, it looked alive. He stood in stunned silence, heart pounding in his chest. Was he seeing things? Stress hallucinations? Had he scratched himself raw to the point of imagining things? By the end of the day, Sarah had scheduled him an urgent appointment with a dermatologist. He tried to argue, but this time she put her foot down. "If you love me, and if you want to meet the daughter we're about to adopt next month, you'll go." That stopped him. They'd been planning this adoption for over a year. A baby girl born in another state, just waiting for a family to bring her home. The thought of missing her first smile, her first steps, was unthinkable. So he went. The doctor was young and confident, but as he examined Matthew's skin under a special magnifying lens, his face changed. He called in another doctor, then another. Within the hour, they'd taken blood samples, biopsies, and scheduled a full body scan. Something about the cellular movement under the skin wasn't normal. It wasn't eczema. It wasn't psoriasis. It could be parasitic, one specialist said carefully, but not like anything we've seen commonly in this region. They told him not to panic. They gave him a mild sedative and told him to rest. But how could he rest, knowing something might be crawling beneath his skin? That night, Matthew stood shirtless in the bathroom mirror, tracing the pattern of red streaks across his chest and shoulders, and that's when he saw it. Clearly, undeniably, a ripple, a movement, like a tiny wave under the surface of his skin, sliding from one side of his shoulder to the other. His breath caught. He wasn't imagining it. Something was alive inside him. Sarah knocked softly on the bathroom door. "Matthew?" He stayed silent for a moment, then slowly opened the door. She looked at him, took one glance at his chest, and her face paled. But she didn't scream. She stepped forward, wrapped her arms around him, and whispered, "We'll figure this out. Whatever it is. Together." But deep down, Matthew wasn't sure what scared him more, what was inside his body, or what it meant for everything he'd built. And this was only the beginning. 2 days after the hospital visit, Matthew found himself sitting in a sterile room under flickering fluorescent lights, the white walls too quiet, the air too still. He hadn't slept. Not really. He'd doze off only to jerk awake the moment he felt that crawling sensation again. Whatever it was under his skin, it wasn't just in his head. It moved in patterns now, slithering from one shoulder to his ribcage, sometimes even down toward his hip. And with each passing hour, it grew bolder. Sarah sat beside him, her fingers wrapped around his hand, her grip tighter than usual. She was always his anchor, but now he saw it in her face. Something beyond worry. A quiet fear, the kind that mothers get when something threatens their family. She didn't have to say it. He knew she was afraid not just for him, but for the baby they were about to adopt. They were days away from flying out to Georgia to sign the final paperwork. The door opened, and Dr. Levesque walked in, a middle-aged infectious disease specialist with tired eyes but sharp instincts. He held a manila folder thick with reports. As he sat down across from them, he let out a slow breath. "We've ruled out every local parasite, bacterial infection, autoimmune condition," he said, tapping the folder with his finger. "But your blood work and the biopsy revealed something unusual." Matthew leaned forward, pulse quickening. "Unusual how?" The doctor glanced at Sarah, as if silently asking for permission to speak freely. She nodded. "There's evidence of foreign organisms, microscopic, possibly a new or undocumented species. They're not bacteria, not quite parasites as we know them, but they're alive, and they're migrating through your subcutaneous tissue." Matthew stared. "You're saying something's living under my skin? Like worms?" Dr. Levesque shook his head. "Not worms. Think smaller, much smaller. And they're not behaving like typical pathogens. They don't seem to be attacking your immune system. It's almost like they're using you as a host, traveling, adapting, even avoiding detection." Sarah covered her mouth with her hand. "Are they dangerous?" Matthew asked, his voice low. "That's what we don't know yet. We've never seen this before. There's a chance they're not harmful at all, but given the rapid spreading and the fact that they're now visible through the skin, we're concerned. We want to run more tests, but what? We also need to notify the CDC just to be safe. You're not contagious, at least we don't believe so, but they'll want to monitor this. You could be patient zero for something new." The words hit like a freight train. Patient zero. The kind of thing you read in medical thrillers or saw in movies. Not something that happened to logistics managers from Seattle. By the time they got home, the sun was setting behind the pine trees, casting long shadows across their yard. The wind chimes Sarah had bought during their honeymoon rattled gently. Matthew sat in silence on the edge of their bed, staring at the floor. His phone buzzed with emails from work, warehouse delays, shipping reports, a regional manager requesting a video call. He ignored them all. Sarah came in and placed a hand on his back. "We don't have to go to Georgia if you're not feeling up to it." He looked up at her. "No. We are going. We've waited too long for this baby. And if this thing inside me is going to change my life, I want her to know me first. I want to hold her, smile at her, before anything else happens." That night, he tried to sleep but failed. The itching had turned into burning. His skin felt tight, like it was stretched too far. He pulled off his shirt and stood in front of the mirror. The red streaks had deepened into purple, like veins running in strange patterns, spirals, branches. And then he saw it again. Movement. This time, not a slither but a pulse. A rhythm, and with that rhythm came something new. A whisper, not real, not audible, but a thought that wasn't his own, flickering in the back of his mind. He backed away from the mirror, heart pounding. Maybe it was sleep deprivation. Maybe it was the sedatives. But deep down, he knew. Whatever was inside him wasn't just feeding. It was learning. The flight to Georgia was quiet. Sarah read a parenting book. Matthew stared out the window, feeling the tingling in his back grow sharper. At the adoption center, the moment he saw baby Ava wrapped in a yellow blanket, everything else fell away. He held her close, her tiny fingers wrapping around his thumb. He smiled. And for the first time in weeks, he felt peace. But later that night, as he stood over her crib in the hotel room, he felt it again, that ripple under his skin. Only this time. Days after the strange luminescence appeared beneath his skin, Matthew's world began to unravel in ways he never could have imagined. The glowing lines weren't just a curiosity. They were spreading, weaving intricate patterns across his torso and arms like a living tattoo. But the physical changes were only the beginning. A deeper transformation was stirring inside him, one that reached far beyond the skin. The doctors remained baffled. Dr. Levesque and his team pored over every scan, every blood sample, desperate to find an explanation for the extraordinary symptoms. Yet every test came back inconclusive. The CDC had sent a specialist, Dr. Chen, a young microbiologist with a reputation for tackling the unexplainable. She was fascinated, cautiously optimistic, but admitted she was chasing shadows. One afternoon, while Matthew sat in the examination room, Dr. Chen leaned forward and said quietly, "Matthew, these organisms in your body, they're communicating. It's subtle, but we're picking up signals. It's as if they're coordinating." Matthew swallowed hard. The idea that something inside him could think or plan felt like science fiction. But what other choice was there? At home, Sarah tried to keep their life normal for baby Ava's sake. The little girl's bright eyes and soft coos brought warmth in the cold uncertainty. But Matthew struggled to be present. The fatigue was overwhelming, and the itching, burning sensations grew worse. Some nights he would sit on the porch staring at the stars, wondering how this nightmare had come to define his reality. Then came the dreams. At first they were fragmented images, deep oceans, vast networks of glowing strands, a presence calling to him in a language beyond words. He woke, up drenched in sweat, heart racing. Night after night the dreams grew clearer. He began to see flashes of a world beneath his skin, where the organisms weren't just surviving but thriving, building something. One morning, Matthew noticed something new. His fingers trembled with unusual strength, and a faint warmth spread from his palms. When he touched baby Ava, her tiny hand grasped his, and a wave of calm washed over him. It was as if the connection inside him was not just a curse, but a source of unexpected power. Sarah noticed the change too. "You look different," she said one evening, brushing his hair back. "More alive, but also distant. What's happening to you?" "I don't know," he admitted, voice heavy with exhaustion. "But I'm starting to think this isn't just about illness. It's something else, something bigger." His job at Cascade Heights was on hold indefinitely. Tyler, his best friend and sous chef, sent messages filled with concern and encouragement. "We're all rooting for you, man. Whatever this is, you'll beat it." But Matthew felt isolated. The man who once wielded knives with surgical precision now couldn't even lift a pot without wincing. One evening, as Sarah rocked Ava to sleep, Matthew felt the glowing lines pulse rapidly. He touched his chest and, for the first time, heard a clear voice in his mind, soft, calm, yet undeniably present. "Do not fear," it said. "We are part of you now." He blinked, heart pounding. "Who? What are you?" "We are the echoes, travelers from the deep places of the earth, carried here by the bluefin tuna you so carefully prepared. We have chosen you because you seek perfection, balance, and connection. Matthew's mind reeled. The rare bluefin tuna, the one he'd sourced for Emma's anniversary dinner. Could it really have been the source? A carrier of something ancient and unknown? Why me? He asked silently. Because you are ready, the voice replied. Together we will heal, transform, and protect. The weight of the revelation settled over him. This wasn't just a medical mystery anymore, it was a calling. The following days brought new challenges. The physical pain waxed and waned, sometimes unbearable, sometimes almost absent. Yet his senses sharpened. He began to hear the faintest hums in the air, see patterns in nature others missed. At the park, Ava's laughter seemed to sync with the rhythms beneath his skin. One afternoon, Matthew met with Dr. Chen again. I believe the organisms have symbiotic intelligence, she explained, excitement clear in her eyes. They're adapting to your body, forming a network that could, in theory, enhance biological functions. Enhance? Matthew asked. Wary. Yes, they might improve healing, sensory perception, even longevity. But it's new territory, unpredictable and risky. Sarah joined them later that day, holding Ava close. Matthew, whatever this is, we're with you, she said, firmly. We'll face it together. That night, Matthew lay awake, feeling the slow pulse of the echoes beneath his skin. Fear battled hope inside him. But he knew one thing for certain. His life had changed forever. And somewhere deep in his heart, a new resolve took root. No matter what came next, he would fight not just to survive, but to transform. For himself, for Sarah, for Ava, and for the mysterious connection that had chosen him. The journey was far from over, and the real story was only just beginning. Matthew's life had been irreversibly altered, and with each passing day, the presence inside him grew stronger and more intertwined with his very being. The echoes, as the mysterious entities had revealed themselves, were no longer a secret, but a living reality he had to accept. It was a strange coexistence, at times painful and confusing, but also filled with unexpected moments of clarity and even power. The city of Seattle, with its gray skies and the ceaseless drizzle, had become a backdrop to Matthew's transformation. His days were consumed with doctor's appointments, research, and quiet moments at home with Sarah and baby Ava. Despite the uncertainty, Sarah's unwavering support was a beacon of hope. Her hands, once skilled at tending to the smallest patients in her kindergarten classroom, now gently cared for Matthew, helping him navigate this uncharted territory. One afternoon, as Matthew sat in the living room, Ava playing quietly on the floor, his phone buzzed. It was Tyler. Man, I miss having you around the kitchen. Everyone's asking about you. We need you back. The message was both a comfort and a reminder of everything Matthew had put on hold, but returning to Cascade Heights was not an option, yet. Matthew's body was still fragile and the doctors remained cautious. Dr. Chen had been studying the echoes closely, running experiments and gathering data. Her initial excitement was tempered by the complexity of the symbiotic relationship. They are not just parasites or pathogens, she explained during one visit. They seem to have their own form of intelligence, but they also respond to your thoughts and emotions. It's a delicate balance. Matthew had learned to focus his mind, practicing meditation and breathing techniques Sarah recommended. Slowly, he discovered he could influence the glowing patterns beneath his skin. With concentration, the pulses of light would brighten or dim, almost as if he were communicating with the echoes. One evening, as rain tapped gently against the windows, Matthew sat with Ava in his lap, feeling a warmth spread through his chest. The baby giggled, reaching up to touch the glowing lines on his arm. It was a tender moment, a reminder that life, even in its most fragile form, carried on. The echoes weren't just a burden, they were becoming part of his family's story. But not everyone understood or accepted Matthew's condition. News of his mysterious illness had begun to circulate, and whispers followed him wherever he went. Some people looked at him with fear or suspicion, while others pitied the once promising chef who had seemingly lost everything. Matthew felt the weight of those judgments, but Sarah's steady presence helped him push through. Determined to regain control, Matthew began documenting his experiences. He wrote journals filled with detailed observations, dreams, and theories. Dr. Chen encouraged this, hoping the records might unlock further clues. She also arranged for Matthew to connect with other researchers studying unusual biological phenomena around the world. As spring turned to summer, small breakthroughs emerged. Matthew noticed his body was healing faster than before. Cuts closed more quickly. Bruises faded overnight. The echoes were enhancing his resilience, but the side effects were unpredictable. Occasionally, he would feel surges of energy that left him exhausted afterward. One morning, a breakthrough came when Matthew experienced a sudden vision, clearer than his previous dreams, showing an ancient underwater ecosystem where creatures like the echoes had existed in harmony with their environment for millennia. The vision filled him with awe and a renewed sense of purpose. He shared this with Sarah and Dr. Chen, who were both amazed. If the echoes are from an ancient lineage, that could explain their intelligence and adaptability, Dr. Chen mused. We might be witnessing a new frontier in biology. But the path ahead was still uncertain. Matthew's connection to the echoes deepened, and with it, new challenges arose. Strange sensations flared unpredictably, sometimes overwhelming. Itching. Other times a calm sense of unity with the natural world. His sense of time would warp during these episodes, minutes stretching into hours or collapsing in an instant. Throughout it all, Matthew's love for his family remained his anchor. Sarah and Ava were the reasons he fought through the pain and fear. Together they dreamed of a future where his condition was no longer a mystery, where he could return to the kitchen and create again. One evening, as the family sat watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, Matthew felt a profound connection, a blend of human and something beyond. He realized this journey was more than survival. It was about transformation, about embracing the unknown and finding strength in the most unexpected places. The echoes had chosen him, but he was learning to choose them back. In this union, Matthew discovered resilience he never knew he had. A resilience born not just from his body, but from hope, love, and the unwavering belief that even the darkest storms could lead to new light. The story was far from over. Each day brought new revelations and challenges, but Matthew faced them with courage, determined to write a future defined not by fear, but by the extraordinary potential hidden within. And so, with every breath and every pulse of light beneath his skin, he stepped forward, ready to embrace the next chapter of this incredible journey. The months that followed brought a whirlwind of emotions and revelations for Matthew and his family. The mysterious echoes, once a terrifying unknown, had become an inseparable part of his life. The glowing patterns beneath his skin no longer just a source of fear, but symbols of his resilience and newfound strength. Yet, the road ahead was anything but smooth. Matthew's world had contracted to the quiet walls of his home, his little sanctuary where Ava's laughter echoed and Sarah's unwavering love surrounded him. Each day was a delicate balance of managing his health, caring for his daughter, and wrestling with the uncertainty of what the future held. The bustling energy of the kitchen and the acclaim of Cascade Heights felt like a distant memory, a life paused indefinitely by forces beyond his control. Despite the setbacks, Matthew refused to surrender. His spirit, though tested, burned with the same fierce determination that had propelled him through countless late nights and stressful service rushes. If anything, this strange bond with the echoes had ignited something deeper within him, a profound sense of purpose that transcended the kitchen and the familiar. One afternoon, a breakthrough came that shifted everything. Dr. Chen, ever the tireless researcher, contacted Matthew with news. "We've identified a potential way to communicate more directly with the echoes," she said, her voice tinged with cautious excitement. "It's experimental, but it might help you control their activity, lessen the side effects, and maybe even harness their capabilities." Hope blossomed in Matthew's chest. With Sarah's support, he agreed to undergo the new procedure, an innovative technique combining advanced neurofeedback with bioelectric stimulation designed to synchronize his brainwaves with the echoes' activity. The idea was to create a dialogue between human and organism, a bridge where cooperation could flourish. The sessions were exhausting and intense. Matthew often emerged drained, his mind swimming with strange images and sensations. But gradually he began to notice shifts, a dimming of the incessant itching, a steadiness in his heartbeat, and moments when the glowing patterns responded to his thoughts like a living language. The connection felt real, powerful, and deeply personal. Outside the medical realm, Matthew's relationship with Sarah deepened as well. The hardships they faced had forged an unbreakable bond, a partnership built on trust, empathy, and fierce love. Sarah's gentle hands soothed his restless nights, while Ava's innocent giggles brought light even on the darkest days. They were a family united by hope and strength, refusing to let adversity define their story. Yet the world beyond their home remained unaware of the extraordinary journey unfolding within. Matthew's absence from the culinary scene sparked rumors and speculation. Friends and colleagues sent messages, concerned but unsure how to help. Tyler visited when he could, bringing news of the restaurant and reminding Matthew that he was missed, not just as a chef, but as a friend and inspiration. One evening, as twilight wrapped the city in a soft embrace, Matthew stood by the window, gazing out at the skyline dotted with shimmering lights. His thoughts drifted to the future, a vision filled with uncertainty but also possibility. He dreamed of returning to the kitchen, not as the man he was before, but as someone transformed, stronger, and wiser. The echoes, once a source of fear, had become a symbol of resilience, proof that even the most unexpected challenges could lead to growth and renewal. Matthew resolved to share his story, to inspire others facing their own battles. His journey was not just about survival, it was about hope, courage, and the power of embracing the unknown. In the quiet moments, when the glow beneath his skin pulsed softly like a heartbeat, Matthew felt a profound connection to life itself. The echoes had become more than a mystery. They were a reminder that within every challenge lay the seed of transformation. And so, with renewed determination, Matthew prepared to step forward into the next chapter. His story was far from over, but he faced it with the unwavering belief that even in the darkest times light could be found. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. He was ready to embrace whatever came next, with courage, love, and the extraordinary strength born from the depths of his soul. Months had passed since Matthew first began to understand the strange bond he shared with the echoes. The glowing patterns beneath his skin had become a part of his daily life, a constant reminder of the battle he had fought and the new reality he faced. But with each passing day, Matthew felt a growing responsibility, not just to himself and his family, but to others who might one day face similar inexplicable challenges. Determined to turn his ordeal into a source of hope, Matthew started documenting his journey in detail. Late into the night, while Ava slept peacefully and Sarah read beside him, he typed out every experience, every breakthrough, and every moment of despair and triumph. His story became a beacon of resilience, a testament to the power of faith, and the human spirit when confronted with the unknown. Word of Matthew's story slowly spread beyond their immediate circle. Local news outlets caught wind of the tale. A chef whose health mystery had baffled doctors but who now lived with a glowing, living connection beneath his skin. People were fascinated by his courage and the medical breakthrough led by Dr. Chen and her team. Matthew was invited to speak at medical conferences, sharing his experience as a living case study and a symbol of hope for patients worldwide battling rare diseases. Public interest opened doors that Matthew had never imagined. He began collaborating with researchers, advocating for increased funding for rare illness studies, and supporting families who felt lost in the medical system. Through it all, Matthew remained grounded by the love of his wife and daughter, the anchors that kept him strong. Though his return to the kitchen was slow and cautious, Matthew found new ways to express his passion. He started a small culinary workshop from home, teaching aspiring chefs about the art of seafood preparation, blending his expertise with lessons on perseverance and creativity. His students admired not just his skill but the depth of his story, at the journey from uncertainty to empowerment. One quiet morning, as Matthew prepared a simple breakfast for Ava, he noticed the faint glow beneath his skin pulse gently. It was no longer erratic or alarming. It moved with calm rhythm, in harmony with his heartbeat. The echoes, once a source of fear, had become a part of his identity, silent companions that reminded him of how far he had come. Reflecting on the journey, Matthew realized that his battle was more than a medical mystery. It was a story about transformation. The adversity had reshaped him, pushing him to redefine success, to appreciate the smaller victories, and to find meaning beyond his career. It had taught him to listen, to his body, to his heart, and to those around him. One afternoon, Sarah surprised him with a gift, a small journal bound in leather, inscribed with the words, "Our Story." Inside, she had collected notes, photos, and letters from friends, family, and even strangers inspired by Matthew's courage. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "Your story is going to touch so many lives." Matthew smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude. The journey had been painful and unpredictable, but it had also brought him closer to what truly mattered. The love of his family, the support of his community, and the chance to make a difference. All of it had become the new measure of his life. As the sun dipped below the Seattle skyline, casting warm hues across their home, Matthew looked at his glowing skin and then at Ava's bright eyes. He knew the future was still uncertain, but he was ready to face it with open arms, armed with courage, hope, and an unshakable belief in the power of human resilience. His story, once shadowed by fear and confusion, had transformed into a beacon of light, an unforgettable journey of healing, love, and the extraordinary strength hidden within us all.